Within a week, my business dropped by half, then 3/4. My regulars, people I'd known for decades, were staying away. Because they believed her mostly, but because they didn't want the drama. They didn't want to be seen at a place that was being protested online. I'd walk down the street and I could feel the eyes on me. I felt like a ghost in my own town. I cried until my eyes were swollen shut. I asked Caleb to make her take it down. He tried, Lord knows he tried. He told me they fought about it for days. But Kaylee told him it was her truth and that her career depended on staying authentic to her experience. She didn't care about the truth. She cared about the engagement. The more people hated me, the more followers she got. She was making money off my misery. Things got worse. A group of young people from the city drove all the way down and stood outside my bakery with signs. They were screaming at me when I went to open the door at 5 in the morning. I had to call the police. The sheriff, Jim, who I've known since he was in diapers, looked at me with so much pity it hurt worse than the screaming. "June," he said, "I know you didn't do these things, but this internet stuff, it's like a wildfire. I can't arrest people for standing on a sidewalk, and I can't stop people from saying things online." I had to close the bakery, my life's work, the place where I'd stood every morning for 30 years watching the sun come up over the flour sacks. I locked the door, turned over the closed sign, and went home to my empty house. I sat in the dark for a long time. I felt like she'd stolen my name, my face, and my soul. But you see, sugar, Kaylee made one big mistake. She thought because I'm 62 and live in a small town that I'm stupid. She thought because I don't create content, I don't understand how it works. I might be an old woman, but I've got a long memory and a lot of time on my hands now that I'm not baking 300 loaves of bread a day. I called my niece, Mindy. Mindy is a whiz with computers. She works in IT up in Charlotte. I told her everything. I told her I didn't want revenge. I wanted the truth, and I wanted it in a way that Kaylee couldn't edit. "Mindy," I said, "I need you to teach me how to do a live stream, and I need you to help me find out some things about Miss Kaylee's authentic life." Mindy came down that weekend. We sat at this very table. She showed me how to use the cameras, how to set up a link that couldn't be traced back to me until I wanted it to be. And she did some digging. It turns out Kaylee wasn't as authentic as she claimed. That poor, struggling creator persona was a lie. She came from a very wealthy family, and she'd been sued twice for defamation, which is a fancy word for lying about people to get famous. She'd done this before. She was a professional predator. She'd find someone vulnerable, a small business owner, a teacher, a nurse, and she'd twist their lives into a villain story to boost her own numbers. The opportunity came about a month later. Kaylee announced she was doing a mega live event to celebrate reaching 1 million followers. She was going to do it from a secret location, which I knew was Caleb's apartment. She was going to tell the full story of her trauma in Oak Haven and launch a new line of empowerment jewelry. She invited her followers to join her for a raw, unedited look at her life. Caleb called me that morning. He sounded broken. "Mama, she's moving out. I can't do this anymore. She's not who I thought she was, but she's gonna go on this stream tonight, and she's gonna say even worse things about you. I'm so sorry." "Don't you be sorry, Caleb," I told him. "You just make sure you're out of that apartment by 7 o'clock. And Caleb," I said, "leave your laptop logged in on the kitchen counter." He didn't ask why. I think he knew I was fixing to do something. 7 o'clock came. I was sitting right here in my best Sunday dress with my pearls on. Mindy was next to me, her fingers flying over the keyboard. On one screen, we saw Kaylee. She was in Caleb's living room, which she decorated with all these fairy lights and aesthetic pillows. She was wearing a white dress, looking like a martyr. "Hi, everyone," she said, her voice trembling perfectly. "Thank you for being here for my 1,000,000-follower celebration. It's been such a hard journey, especially after what happened with, the baker of hate in that small town. I've had death threats, guys. I've been so scared. But I'm here to stand in my truth." The comments were scrolling by so fast you couldn't read them. "We love Kaylee. Shut down that bakery. Justice for Kaylee." She started showing behind-the-scenes footage, but Mindy had found the original files. You see, Kaylee kept everything on a cloud, a digital storage space, and she hadn't changed her passwords in a long time. Mindy had found the unedited videos of that weekend at my house. I saw the clip of me with the chicken knife. In the unedited version, I was laughing and saying, "Careful now, Caleb, don't let the dog underfoot while I'm cutting this up." I wasn't a monster. I was a mother making dinner. I saw the clip of me saying, "I don't like the way things are changing." In the full version, I was crying because the town's free clinic had lost its funding. I wasn't a bigot. I was a woman worried about her neighbors. Kaylee was mid-sentence talking about how she'd cornered me in the laundry room when Mindy hit the button. Suddenly, Kaylee's screen split in half. On the left was her pretty face looking shocked. On the right was me. "Evening, Kaylee," I said. My voice was calm. It was the voice I use when a cake isn't rising right. Firm but steady. The comments stopped for a split second. Then they exploded. "Who was that? Is that the baker?" Kaylee's eyes went wide. She started fumbling with her phone. What is this? Someone is hacking my stream. Guys, I'm being attacked." "You aren't being attacked, sugar," I said, looking right into the camera. "You're just finally being introduced to the truth. Now, I'm not a content creator. I'm just a woman who knows how to keep her kitchen clean. And I think it's time we cleaned up your kitchen, don't you?" Mindy started playing the unedited videos right there on Kaylee's own live stream to her 1,000,000 followers. We showed the real June. We showed the clips of Kaylee laughing after the camera was supposed to be off, saying things like, "This old bat is so easy to trigger," and "Wait until the followers see how I edit this." We showed a recording of her talking to a brand representative saying, "Yeah, the hate angle is working great. My engagement is up 400%. We can sell way more jewelry if I play the victim." Kaylee was screaming now. She was hitting her phone, trying to turn it off, but Mindy had control of the broadcast. Kaylee started cursing, not the sweet girl words she usually used. She was using language that would make a sailor blush. She called her followers idiots and parasites who would believe anything she told them. She forgot the microphone was still on. She forgot 1,000,000 people were watching her real face, the one without the filters, the one twisted with rage and greed. I just sat there. I didn't say another word. I let her destroy herself. It only took about 5 minutes. By the time she finally managed to pull the plug on the router, her follower count was dropping by the thousands every second. The "Justice for Kaylee" hashtags were being replaced by hashtag "Kaylee is a fraud" and hashtag "Justice for Mama June." I turned off my computer. Mindy hugged me. I went out onto my porch and sat in my swing. The crickets were singing. The air smelled like rain. The next morning, I woke up to a different world. My phone, the one I usually only use for family, was buzzing nonstop. Not with hate, but with apologies. Sarah Jenkins was the first at my door. She was holding a bouquet of daisies and looking like she wanted the earth to swallow her whole. "June," she sobbed, "I am so sorry. I should have known. I've known you for 40 years and I let a girl on a phone tell me who you were. Can you ever forgive me?" I invited her in. I told her that the internet is a powerful thing and it's easy to get swept up in the noise. I forgave her. I forgave them all. I reopened the bakery 2 days later. There was a line down the block, not just people from Oak Haven, but people who had driven for hours because they'd seen the real live stream. They wanted to support the woman who stood up for herself. Kaylee? Well, she vanished from the internet. Her brand deals were canceled. Her jewelry line never launched. Last I heard, she was back living with her parents, buried under a dozen lawsuits. Caleb moved back home for a while to find his feet. He's doing well now. He met a girl, a real girl, who works at the library and doesn't even own a selfie stick. Sometimes, sugar, people think that being kind means being weak. They think because we're older, we're obsolete. But the truth is like a sourdough starter. You can try to kill it, you can ignore it, you can bury it in the back of the fridge, but if it's got good bones, it'll always come back to life. I still don't like the internet much. I still think the world was better when you had to look a person in the eye to tell them a lie. But I learned that you don't have to shout to be heard. You just have to wait for the right moment to whisper the truth. My bakery's doing better than ever. I've got a little sign in the window now. It doesn't say open or closed. It says, "The truth is always in the tasting." And you know what? It is. Now let's get this pie out of the oven. I can smell the berries bubbling, and that's a content I can actually get behind. You know, honey, life is a lot like my old house here. It's got deep foundations, but the windows get dirty sometimes. You can't always control who walks past your front yard or what they whisper about you from the sidewalk. There will always be folks like Kaylee, people who think the world is just a stage and everyone else is just a prop for their show. They think they can paint over your walls with whatever color suits them that day. But a house built on the truth, well, that house can weather any storm. The wind can howl, the rain can lash against the glass, and the world can try to shake the very ground you stand on. But when the clouds clear, you'll still be there. Your name will still be yours. Don't you ever let someone else tell you who you are, especially someone who doesn't know the color of your kitchen or the way you take your coffee. Your reputation isn't kept in a glass rectangle. It's kept in the hands you've held, the meals you've cooked, and the way you've shown up for people when the cameras weren't rolling. That's the only engagement that matters in the end. Being able to look at yourself in the mirror at the end of the day and knowing that the person looking back at you is real, unfiltered, authentic in the way that actually counts. Now you take a big slice of this pie. It's warm, it's sweet, and it's the honest to goodness truth, just like family should be. Keep your heart soft, but keep your spine straight, sugar. The truth always finds its way home. Now you gather round, sugar. Pull that chair up close to the island while I finish crimping the edges of this blackberry pie. The crust is just right today. Flaky, buttery, and exactly the way my mama taught me back when the world was a whole lot quieter than it is now. You know, I've lived in this town of Oak Haven for 62 years. I know every crack in the sidewalk on Main Street, and I know exactly which pew in the Baptist church creaks when you sit down too fast. I thought I knew how the world worked. I thought if you lived a quiet life, treated your neighbors like kin, and kept your business to yourself, the world would treat you the same way. But the world changed when I wasn't looking. It got smaller, tucked inside those little glass rectangles everyone carries in their pockets. And I learned the hard way that a person's reputation, something that takes 60 years to build with honest work and kind words, can be set on fire and burnt to ash in 60 seconds by someone with a pretty face and a heart made of ice. It all started about 2 years ago. My son, Caleb, my only boy, the light of my life, came home for the 4th of July. Now, Caleb has always been a good boy, a bit of a dreamer, maybe a little too soft-hearted for his own good. He told me he was bringing a girl home, Kaylee. He met her in the city, and from the way he talked about her, I thought he'd found an angel. He said she was a content creator. I didn't truly know what that meant back then. I thought maybe she wrote for the newspapers or made commercials. The minute they pulled into my gravel driveway in that shiny white SUV, I felt a little prickle on the back of my neck. You ever get that feeling, honey? Like a cold breeze when all the windows are shut? Kaylee hopped out of that car and she didn't even look at me first. She held a phone up on a little stick, spinning around in a circle, talking to the air. "Oh my God, guys," she was saying, her voice high and sugary like she'd swallowed a gallon of corn syrup. "We are finally here at Caleb's childhood home. Look at this aesthetic. It's so rustic, so small town core. I can't wait for you to meet his mama. She's like a total character." A character? I was standing there in my favorite apron with the flower stains on the front, fixing to give my son a hug, and she was treating me like an exhibit at the zoo. Caleb looked a little embarrassed, but he just shrugged and kissed my cheek. "Mama, this is Kaylee. Kaylee, put the phone down for a second and meet my mom." She lowered the phone, but she didn't turn it off. I could see the little red light blinking. She gave me a hug that didn't feel like a hug at all. It felt like being touched by a mannequin. She smelled like expensive perfume and something chemical. "So nice to meet you, June. I've told my followers so much about you." I didn't know who her followers were. I thought maybe she meant her church group or her bridge club. I just smiled and invited them in for fried chicken and mashed potatoes. That dinner was the most uncomfortable meal I've had in my life. Every time I passed the gravy, Kaylee was snapping a picture. Every time I asked Caleb about his job, she was recording his answer. She kept asking me to say things again, but with more of that southern twang. "June, say bless your heart for the camera," she'd giggle. I just looked at her. "Well, sugar, I only say that when I mean it. And right now, I'm just trying to eat my dinner." I saw Caleb wince. He told me later that Kaylee was just building her brand and that her community loved authentic people like me. I told him I wasn't an authentic person. I was just his mother, and I'd appreciate it if she'd put that phone in her purse so we could have a conversation. Well, they stayed for the weekend, and I thought that was that. I went back to my life, running my little bakery on the corner of Elm. I make the best sourdough in the county, if I do say so myself. People come from 3 towns over for my cinnamon rolls. Life was peaceful, or so I thought. About a month later, I was at the grocery store picking up a bag of sugar when I noticed Sarah Jenkins, the postmaster's wife, looking at me strange. She didn't say hello, she just turned her cart and went down the cereal aisle. Then I saw young Becky Miller, who works at the library, whispering to her friend and pointing at me. I went home feeling unsettled. I called Caleb. "Son," I said, "is something going on? People are acting like I've got the plague." Caleb was quiet a long time. Then he sighed. "Mama, have you seen Kaylee's latest videos? You know I don't use the internet for much more than checking the weather and looking at pictures of your cousins, Caleb. I'll send you a link." His voice sounded heavy. When I opened that link on my computer, I nearly fell out of my chair. It was a video titled "Trapped in the Past, My Nightmare Weekend with My Boyfriend's Toxic, Bigoted, Small-Town Mother." There was Kaylee filling the screen. She looked like she'd been crying, but her makeup was still perfect. She started talking about how scared she was in my house. She showed clips of me, clips she must have taken when I didn't know she was recording. She edited them, sugar. She chopped up my words. She showed me holding my kitchen knife when I was cutting the chicken, and she put slow motion music over it, making me look like some kind of crazed woman. She told her followers that I attacked her lifestyle, that I was judgmental and hateful, and that she felt unsafe because of my outdated views. The comments, oh Lord, the comments. Thousands of people I've never met were calling me names I won't repeat. They were calling for my bakery to be shut down. They found the name of my business. They were leaving reviews saying there were rats in my kitchen, and I used hate as a secret ingredient.